Your intuition is your soul's guidance system. So it's the invisible world communicating with you while you navigate the visible one. And when you ignore it, you are essentially telling your soul, I don't trust you. I know better. And the soul doesn't fight back. It just waits and aches. Welcome back to School of Shamanism, and I'm Giada, and this is season 1, Walking in Between Worlds. Last time we went to the main topic of this season. What is the invisible world? What is the visible world that we know? And why, for example, we are all connected with feeling, signs, dreams, which is the invisible worlds, but we can't merge it into the reality, the middle world, we would say, in shamanism, which is around us. The bridge for that is your intuition, because it's exactly your most important skill, probably in this path, but also one of the hardest one, not because the intuition is complicated, and this is the topic of today, but because it's incredibly simple, but we don't trust it. So let's just step back one second and say again, before we go deeper, let's go back again to walking between worlds, because I've been using this phrase a lot throughout the season, and it holds two meanings that are equally important. The first is the traditional shamanic understanding. In shamanic practice, we recognize that reality has two dimensions. There is the visible world, the physical material realm, what we can see, touch, measure, and prove, and which is the world of bodies, the physical reality in which we are, and invisible world, the realm of spirit, energy, ancestors, guides, dreams, and the world that operates beneath and beyond what the eyes can see. So the shaman is someone who walks in between these two realities that can actually bring back healing, guidance, and wisdom, hopefully. And that's the ancient understanding. But then there is also another meaning, which is holding two lives, which is what I've always, and I'm still doing in my life. The life in the real world, your job, your responsibilities, your being grounded, the things to do, your 9 to 5 or even more, in my case, activities, the practical stuff. And then the soul life, your spiritual practice in the morning, in the evening, when you're teaching, when you feel the deep calling. And normally they don't match together for lots of people. Sometimes they do. And when they do, it means you are simply very much online. But over the 25 years when I was working in corporate, I had one foot in meetings in boardrooms and the other foot in sacred circles. And it was very difficult to say and take into the meetings. Actually, my intuition is saying you had to prove that actually with data, with elements, that whatever you were saying had a validity, something that was real and tangible and measurable. So your intuition is the bridge in between these two worlds, and how the invisible world speaks to you while you are living in this visible one. And it's how your soul guides you while you are navigating the practical demands of the modern life. So that's why trusting your intuition matters so much, because it's the thread that connects both worlds. And without it, you would probably live just in one reality and not in the other one. So intuition is knowing without knowing how you know. Sounds easy. So it's that gut feeling, that sense of that something is right or wrong, that voice that says, don't take that job or leave that job, leave that relationship or start that relationship, and you don't even know why. It doesn't, of course, come with a logical explanation. It doesn't come with a PowerPoint with the bullet points. It's just there. It kicks in and starts arguing with your mind. Because your intuition says, oh, well, don't trust that person. And you don't know why. And then your mind says, oh, but that person is so lovely. Why shouldn't you trust her? You're just paranoid. Your intuition says that opportunity doesn't feel right. And your mind says, take it. It's a good offer. Just stay in the comfort zone, in the prison. Or your intuition says something needs to change, and your mind says, just don't be dramatic, just keep going, things will be fine. So why don't we trust our intuition? That is part of our conditioning. We grow up in a world that worships logic and dismisses anything that can be explained in a rational way. And intuition isn't logical. You can't prove it. You can't justify in a meeting or defend it to your family. So we learn to override it. And this is especially hard when you are walking between worlds in that second sense. So you are holding a professional life alongside the spiritual reality. But the physical life doesn't trust the intuition element. You can't say, my gut told me in a strategy meeting, as I said, you can't put, I just knew it. How? What's the proof? So you learn to silence that voice at work. And then it gets harder to hear it in the whole part of your life. So it's affecting you. And trusting your intuition often means making choices that don't make sense on paper. Leaving that secure job, ending that relationship that looks perfect and then your family wants, your friends want, walking away from something that everyone thinks you should want. And that's scary. It's much easier to follow the logical path, even if something inside you is screaming. Part of it is experience. And maybe you trusted your intuition once, things didn't go very well, and so you are reluctant in trusting it a second time. And so you prefer to rely on an external practical guidance instead of your inner master inside your gut or your heart. And also we live in such a loud world, constant information, constant opinions, constant stimulation, and the intuitive voice is quiet. It gets drowned out easily. If you are never still, you will never hear it. And so how do I know if it's intuition or just fear? Because the two things can be the same, because sometimes they can feel very similar. And both might say, don't do this. Both might create hesitation, but there is a difference, and learning to tell them apart is essential. Fear is loud, it's frantic, it comes with stories, worst case scenario, spinning thoughts. It's in your chest, in your throat. It's constricted, and it's usually about the future. What might happen, what could go wrong. Intuition is quiet, is calm. It doesn't argue and explains anything. And it's in the lower part of your body, your gut, your belly, and it's not attached to any outcome. It's just clear. And fear says, don't do this because something terrible might happen and you'll regret it, or you are not ready. While the intuition doesn't speak about any drama, doesn't comes out with a list of reasons. You just know it, full stop. It's very simple. So to trust yourself, even when you can't see the whole part, is the only possible things to do. Because the cost of ignoring yourself and ignoring your intuition can have, for sure, bad consequences, can turn out into choices that you should have not made, in illnesses, because you are ignoring a voice. So you say yes when everything inside you is saying no. So you are going beyond an internal will. And even if at the beginning it seems fine, you convince yourself you made the right choice. You push that intuitive knowing down and you just get on with things. But it doesn't go away. It just goes underground. And then it starts showing up in a different way as anxiety. That vague sense of unease that follows you around, tension, fatigue, illness, as I said, resentment, sadness, sense of guilt. Your intuition is your soul's guidance system. So it's the invisible world communicating with you while you navigate the visible one. And when you ignore it, you are essentially telling your soul, I don't trust you. I know better. And the soul doesn't fight back. It just waits and aches. So I've ignored as well my intuition several times, and every single time I paid for it eventually. Sometimes quickly, sometimes years later, but always there is a moment in which you think, I knew it. So why didn't I listen? Because of fear, because everyone around me was saying the opposite. So how do you trust your intuition? First, you have to create space to hear it, which means stillness, silence, time away from the phone, time away from the noise, even if just 5 minutes a day, with no music, no phone, no podcast, apart from this one, no conversation, just you and your inner world. And this is where you start listening, just by spending this time with your inner voice. And you need these moments. And then your inner voice starts communicating also with external images, synchronicities that come to you that confirms that inner voice was right. And then you have to start acting on small things. Just don't wait until you have a huge life decision to practice trusting your intuition. Just start with the little stuff. Just get an impulse to take a different route to work. Follow it. You feel drawn to reach out to someone you haven't spoken to in months. Do it. You have a sense that you should rest today instead of pushing through. Honor your body. And just these small acts of trust build the muscle, like in the gym. They create the evidence and they show your intuition. I'm listening now. I'm taking you seriously. And as a third element, you just keep track or write down when you get an intuitive hit, if you have time. What did you sense? What did you do? What happened over time? You'll start to see patterns and you'll notice how often your intuition was right. And of course, it doesn't mean that you have to be right all the time. You just need to learn how to decode its own language and learn how to distinguish intuition from fear without having a proof apart from that inner voice that is inside your gut and that resonates with your heart.